everyone for being here today. I know James spoke about yesterday being the equinox. Today's the first day of spring. I had a few things to say about that as well. So, as we know, yesterday was the equinox when the center of the sun is directly above the equator, making the time when the length of day and night are equal. It also marks the beginning of the astrological new year, shifting us into a new astrological cycle as the sun shifts into Aries. I'm not an astrologer myself, but I like astrology. So especially times like this, I like to emphasize. And most of this information I'm sharing with you comes from a website that I have really enjoyed recently called sparksofdivinelighthealing.com. So you can always go there and check out what they have to say. It is said that during the equinox, the sun is in perfect alignment with the heavens, creating a powerful portal for change and manifestation. During the equinox, cracks open up in the Earth's electromagnetic field. This allows for waves of highly charged plasma from the sun to stream in. These galactic energies are full of rainbow frequencies and light codes. Rainbow, of course, meaning all the spectrums, all the frequencies of the full spectrum of light, all the colors. The equinox is meant to be a solar festival as it signifies the return of the light and is a time of rebirth and big changes. We are celebrating the start of spring and are making big shifts right now. So this is a very sacred time for balancing and harmonizing our internal energies, for embracing change and for shifting perspectives. This energy is bringing massive upgrades, and if you're feeling it, you're not alone. I know I've definitely been feeling energies shifting, and I'm definitely being kind of very gently inspired and called from the universe to make changes in my life that, weren't necessarily, some feel like big changes, some feel like not so big changes, but either way, very positive movements towards kind of cleansing and clearing. So ways of being are departing, ending, being released, while simultaneously new things are arising. It's a great time to do some spring cleaning inside and out. This week's energies are meant to help us remove any old or negative energies. This is a time to be clearing out old lessons and old connections. This will help you to raise your frequency even more. So this is also a massive manifestation portal, a powerful time to be shaking off any worries and expectations, especially from this previous year, exploring new possibilities and setting intentions. So let's take a breath together. And as we know, the spring is a powerful time to literally plant new seeds, either in the earth if you have a garden, or inside your soul and inside your intentions, inside your mind, things that you want to have grow and sprout and emerge in this coming year. I think probably around the beginning of the year, we did a meditation or a talk on things like that already, because even in the winter, people plant seeds so that in the darkness and the rich moistness of the earth and, our mind, these seeds can start growing as is happening now, as the sun is getting stronger, as the light is returning, so that our vegetables can grow, but also the intentions in our mind. So play with that any way you'd like. Okay, let's take another breath together. So with that, my talk today is going to be on forgiveness, because forgiveness is a wonderful practice to clear out. It's very possibly the most powerful practice to clear out, of our mind and our feelings and our karma and things like that. So I'm going to give we only have like 20 minutes. I'm going to give a talk today on forgiveness. It's going to be deeply personal. So, because I want to share with you probably the most powerful forgiveness experience I've ever had in my life so far. And a practice, as James said previously, I'm a transformational teacher. So I've also developed a teaching and a practice on forgiveness, which at the end of the talk, we'll upload the PDF into the chat so you can have it and you can play with it yourself if you'd like. So the essential teachings of forgiveness, and for those of you that have heard me speak before, some of the teachings that I offer, I'm a metaphysical minister, so I teach about metaphysics. I'm a metaphysical teacher. And one of those practices, and again, you don't have to believe any of this. I'm inviting you to try it on today or in your life if you'd like, but again, no attachment to whether you believe this. There's lots of ways to do forgiveness. There's lots of ways to conceive of, who we are as these flesh and blood humans, walking our life cycle for this time, on the planet, and why is that? Why are we here? Where did we come from? Where are we going? Well, of course, for those of us that are spiritualists, we have maybe a little bit more of a groundedness in some of that. But very briefly, as some of you know, I come from a point of view that, the spiritual part of us is infinite and eternal, and is one, and is in oneness with the spiritual part of each of us, all of us, even the planet and the universe and all that. But then we have our humanity, and our humanity is a temporary experience. Our flesh and blood is temporary. Perhaps our personality, even in spiritualism, we know that personality goes on, but who knows? I mean, I don't know that we have people writing back tens of thousands of years into the future or the past, and where is all of our karma 10,000 years out? Does it even matter? Does it even exist? So my point in that is that I believe that there's a part of us, that the spiritual part of us, the divine, the divinity part of us, is that part of us that is all loving, that is innocent, and this is really where forgiveness comes from. There's a part of us where the karma doesn't exist, the transgressions, the mistakes, the fear, that kind of stuff doesn't even exist, because in oneness there can't be pain, because it's not dual. This is in non-duality. So there's a place where we can, so the teachings are that forgiveness is the ability to release and free yourself and others from previous agreements, meanings, feelings, circumstances, identities, and transgressions, and restore any thought, feeling, situation, or person to its original or neutral state. Because again, it's in our divinity that we live in neutral, because we're out of the duality. We're not on the birth-death cycle. We're not in the pain-pleasure. So we can restore any experience to what we call its neutral state, where nothing is actually lost or damaged. We can evolve, and our forgiveness is evolving thoughts, feelings, a situation, or person to a quality of life that can include the past in a wise, compassionate, grateful, and peaceful way without limiting the future. So I'll give you again, part of how I came to this teaching was, as some of you know, I was in a relationship with my partner, Jackie, for 13 and a half years. And we had an incredibly wonderful, loving relationship. And pretty much every aspect of our relationship worked and was lovely. We had great friends. We had fun together. We eventually bought a house together. We traveled. We had family. I helped her reconnect with her family, her brother, her father, and we had community. We met in spiritual community. I knew that my significant partner, I was going to need to meet in my spiritual community, because I spent so much time there. I was so devoted. We were part of a ministry, not this ministry, but a previous ministry at the time. So we really had a wonderful relationship. The one part of our relationship that didn't work really very well was the sexual part of our relationship. And again, this is a kind of a deeply personal sharing, but I'm really open to sharing this because I'm a sex positive person. I know that for many of us, it's not going to get very graphic, so don't worry about that. But for many of us, topics like sexuality stay hidden in the shadows and can be places where we experience shame and pain and things like that. And some of that was true for me. I mean, when we got together at first, a lot of times when you fall in love and you meet somebody in this chemistry and you're enjoying it, it works, But for many of us, as we know, that energy can wane. Now, it doesn't mean that in a relationship that we can't cultivate and continue having a flow of sexual energy over a long period of time. That's definitely possible. But for us, that really wasn't happening. But because we loved each other so much and the rest of our relationship worked so well, that we stayed together. But what I also know was true, that when we were having those difficulties, a lot of it was me. I have had sexual issues and gender issues all my life, and Jackie encouraged me to get into therapy about it. And the truth at the time is I didn't really know how. I knew really one therapist that I think maybe I trusted back then, but I didn't really feel comfortable. So the truth is I never actually did anything about it. And, I suppose, and we could have, like I said, we could have broken up, there's any number of things we could have done. But what we did choose to do was stay together and enjoy as much of our lives and our relationship as we could. But pretty much the sexual part of our relationship kind of waned. We still slept in the same bed every night. Neither of us cheated, so we had as conscious a relationship as we could given the circumstances. What I can share and say now that wasn't really true at the time is neither of us knew how to have a more conscious conversation about what was happening and include more possibilities. Maybe we would have broken up. At one time, we actually declared our relationship to be an open relationship. But again, neither of us acted on this. And also, what's important for you to know is, well, about 11 years ago, Jackie passed away. She had diseases, she had illnesses. She was still a beautiful, wonderful, joyful person, but she got systemic staph infection and she had other issues. And unfortunately, it got the hold of her and got the most of her, and she passed away. And of course, that was a form of a tragedy in my life, and of course, her life. And she had one son and 4 beautiful grandchildren, and but unfortunately, so that's what happened. And when Jackie passed, so I'm emphasizing again that if we had known what to do when this part of our relationship was shifting, but we were ignorant in a way, we didn't know how to do it differently. And when Jackie passed away, I did a forgiveness class, and which was really powerful. The teacher taught us how to write a letter kind of to ourselves from the deceased person, or the person that and it didn't have to be a deceased person, but the person who we wanted forgiveness with. And, channeled through me with my pen in hand, Jackie wrote a beautiful, beautiful letter to me that, I still have. And, but I also at that time wanted to really clear myself. And as much as I love Jackie, it's not like I was like wanting to rid her energy or say, oh, that's gone, that's done. It's like, because she will, of course, always be with me. She is with me a lot. And of course, as a spiritualist, she's with me a lot. She's been in my dreams a lot lately, and really close, like we've hugged and maybe laid down together. Like I literally can feel her, and her energy was amazing and beautiful and spiritual and joyful, and really a wonderful, incredible person. And again, we were very spiritually connected. So, but I wanted to, for my own, so this really story, because we can forgive ourselves, we can also forgive others. But this story is one about self-forgiveness. So I really wanted to, for my own purposes, do a process with myself to find out if I was holding on to any fear or any guilt or anything like that. And so in the course of doing this process with myself, and again, I wrote a practice out of this and an exercise out of this, which again, later at the end of the talk, James will share, that you guys can have and use if you have needs to do self-forgiveness or forgiveness with others. Where I really asked myself, because I felt like I had some regret that she and I had not been able to manage, our sexual relationship better. And again, whether that meant we found a way to, move past some of our obstacles, or whether it would have been more purposeful to actually break up but stay friends. I mean, because we loved each other very much, I didn't feel like that was going to change. And because part of what felt true for me is because essentially what happened in our relationship is I shut down first. I started shutting down because, I'm not going to get into more detail right now, but it just sort of wasn't working for me. Now, in that case, she could have said, well, screw you, whatever, or I love you, but, I want to be able to still have a sexual life and everything, so I'm going to go figure that out. But she didn't do that. She also kind of let her sexual energy sort of go dormant. And again, like I said, she did kind of get sick at the time, and, was in the hospital for 6 months and ended up in a wheelchair and everything. But, we still made the best of our relationship. I mean, she could have died. She didn't die. We made the best of our relationship. We still had a beautiful, wonderful life together. But, when I was doing this process, what felt true for me was that, in her sort of letting her also her sexual energy and her, kind of wane, that was because I believe that to some degree, sexual energy is life force energy. It runs through our bodies. It connects our chakras. It opens us up to life, even if it's just appreciation with nature or enjoying going swimming or, just the sensuality part of it to keep our senses alive and flowing and our energy flowing. That's a form of life-giving, life-giving energy, and that it, moves through us and provides health as well as pleasure. So, and that her choice, to let that wane and shut down, I believe at some level contributed to her progressive getting sick and then eventually dying. Now, again, but I don't take responsibility, of course, for her death. I believe that, our contracts with life and the universe are up to us, and universe and spirit. But I had some regret in there, and I didn't feel good about it. And I wanted, and I have done a lot of responsibility work for many, many years. So I wanted to take responsibility for what I felt like was my part of it. So again, I did this self-introspection, and as I sat with it and I felt it, and I, it felt like it all boiled down to, those times when we had those conversations and she was asking me to do some therapy or figure this out. What was true for me at the time is that what came up, what the bottom line for me was that I felt fear. And it wasn't a terrifying fear, but it was enough of a fear, at the time, of course, that I didn't do anything about it. Now, when these years later, when I did this process and I sat with it and I arrived at the truth was that I was afraid. I didn't know how to talk about it. It felt shameful. And I've done enough inner child work at this point. I've done a lot. Is that one of the things I know, and where a lot of us really get stuck in our pain, is we feel like children do. We feel hurt and we feel fear. And that is natural. Now, I'm not saying we should stay stuck in our hurt and our fear, but it's natural to feel those. And when I arrived at what I felt like was the bottom of this well of kind of regret and shame, and felt like, well, the truth is I felt fear and I didn't know what to do about it. At that time in my life, I didn't know how to speak to people about it. I know how to do that now. I can give a talk like this to people I don't even know, because I know that, my fear is not all of who I am. And I know, again, that fear is natural. And when I realized that if I would call this a crime or a transgression, that to feel fear is not a crime. It's natural. And I was able to, restore myself to what I call innocence by acknowledging and admitting I felt fear and I didn't know what to do about it. And that is forgivable. I was able to forgive myself and realize, but there's an important step after that. Once I cleared that out and kind of made my peace with myself and with Jackie, that if I could have done it differently, I would have, but at that time, again, I was ignorant, I was naive, I was in the grips of some fear and shame. But I did the practice again that we don't have time to go through all the steps of it, in this talk, but you'll have it to take with you later if you want it, is that I really detailed out, the places where, again, if I could have done differently, I would. And one of those steps was that I vowed to never do that again. Is that at that time I was, and I have dated and had some relations, since Jackie's passed, but I really was able to identify, what was going on with me more specifically. Where did I get stuck in my fear? And vow that when I was going to have the opportunity to be with someone again in intimate ways, that I was going to do it differently, that I would recognize, be more open, or, even just with myself about my fear and that kind of stuff. And that if I got, I was just, like I said, I was just able to do it differently, so that the place that I felt like at least I for sure got stuck in my relationship and in my more intimate relationship with Jackie, that I just wasn't going to do it that way, because I felt like, even though I didn't feel responsible again for her experience or her pain, I do believe that we influence each other. And again, I don't, at that time, I don't take responsibility for her death or anything, but I feel like my choices, my actions, my fears contributed and can influence her experience and her choices in her life. So I was really able to clear that for myself, and like I said, but that important step of vowing, to not step in the same potholes that I've stepped in before or get stuck in my fear. And I have kept that vow. I have done that. So let's take a breath. I know this is a powerful talk and sharing. And I'm just going to read a little bit again from this document on forgiveness that you're going to get, and so that we can just see some of this. So again, forgiveness is our ability to identify ourselves or others or anything with its inherent state of wholeness, completeness, infinity, eternity, innocence, and pure possibility. Forgiveness requires, okay, here's the document. James brought it up. You're welcome to read along. I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but forgiveness requires us to shift our point of view from survival to infinity. So I'm on the first page. On the second paragraph here. Forgiveness requires us to shift our point of view from survival to infinity, from duality to oneness, from guilt to innocence. To do this, we will also have to align our point of view with the qualities of being that are eternal, rather than based in time and space, for example, physical circumstances. Someone's body may not be on the planet anymore, but their essence or joy can be. Someone may have lost a limb or a loved one, but their ability or potential to still experience a heartfelt, soulful, and high quality of life is never lost. And yeah. So there's steps here, I'll read through them. It might sound a little complicated, but again, if you want to actually do the practices, you can, take your time and work through it. So, basically what the exercise is to recognize and make a list of places in yourself, in your life, and with others that you feel may be needing forgiveness. Tell the truth about what happened, what occurred that feels painful, where you were hiding, lying, stealing, or harming yourself or another or others in any way. Admit to yourself what damage you feel you or another has created. Identify what you feel is lost, damaged, broken, or no longer possible for yourself or another or others. And again, as it's going to say here, the part about what I call telling the truth about what's actually lost or damaged is really important, because a lot of us carry guilt and shame over stuff that's not even true. We make up that we have, we've caused others harm. We've done things, even from our fear or whatever. There's also something called the Telos Principle that I use in my teachings. And the Telos Principle Telos is the Greek word for like the goal of the goal. And the Telos Principle says that I was taught this by one of my previous teachers, that he says that behind everything we do, even what seems dysfunctional, is that we're trying to meet one of our needs. We're trying to meet a positive need. So even if we do dysfunctional behavior, hiding, lying, stealing, shaming, guilting, all the different things that sometimes we do to ourselves and others, that it's because we're trying to meet one of our needs. And our needs are precious. And we need to meet our needs. And that all of our needs ultimately are for goodness. It doesn't mean, again, the method is always so good, but the need is valid. So I say this because sometimes when we've harmed or caused, some kind of unrest or something to another, it's natural to feel guilt, but we don't want to feel guilt for the rest of our lives. I mean, this stuff can be relieved. And sometimes we feel like the only way to reconcile that we've caused harm or done influence is to carry the guilt, and that is not healthy. That is not going to be good for us. That's why these steps of really working on identifying, what we feel has been lost, damaged, broken, and tell the truth about that. Because there are things that are also not lost. So like if we were to jump down to number 9, it says, let go of past realities and bring yourself into the present by grieving and mourning what is actually lost. Jackie is dead. That's a tragedy for me, for her family, for her grandkids. But, but her joy lives on, the amazing gifts that she gave. So, I can't give her more time with her grandkids, but I can speak about her and the amazing wonderfulness that she was. So we will grieve. So it's important to grieve and mourn what is actually lost, but again, recognize what is not lost, what's still possible, and keep living, forgiving ourselves and living from what's possible. I mean, we're not meant to carry around guilt and shame and burden and pain for the rest of our lives. And that's what forgiveness work is about. So there's a lot here. There's a lot that we didn't even get to touch on, but you get to have this document to take home with you. James is going to put it in the chat. You're welcome to download it if you'd like. Because again, especially today on the first day of spring and the time for a new year and these very, very powerful times. I know you're here at this service because you believe in spirit and you very likely do some form of soul work or personal growth work. And it's very important. It's very important. We have a lot of living to do. There's a lot of great, wonderful living and things ahead of us. I'm a person of great faith. I truly believe, even if it's going to take a long time, and it probably will, that really wonderful things are happening on the planet in terms of humanity healing and us eventually ushering the earth onto her own peaceful evolution. So again, I hope that something I shared today was of value to you. And I'm going to complete and leave that right there. So happy spring. Put your hands on your heart. Remind yourself to love yourself. And I love you very much. So blessings.